jury what kind of education and training you've had in order for you to maintain your position.
We begin by going to undergrad. So I received my undergraduate degree in biology and biomedical sciences. After that, I obtained my master's degree in forensics, which was a 2-year program in Philadelphia. Following that, I went to medical school for 4 years in Kansas City to receive my doctorate degree. Following that, I attended Cleveland Clinic pathology residency program for 4 years, where I was certified in anatomic and clinical pathology. And then following that, I received my forensic pathology training and fellowship in Baltimore for the state of Maryland.
And ma'am, are you a dually licensed physician in the state of Ohio?
Yes, I'm licensed in anatomic, clinical, and then forensic pathology.
And ma'am, with regards to board certifications, are you board certified in the various fields?
The same, yes.
All right. And just briefly, what does board certification mean in a particular area?
Once you choose an area of medicine to practice and you complete your training, you have to take a board certification exam so that you're competent in that education and that process. So I took exams on each of those 3 subjects. Each one is a day-long process.
And Dr. Mooney, in addition to that, do you also teach pathology or forensic pathology here in the Cleveland area?
Yes, we train all of the upcoming medical students, residents at the surrounding programs in our facility in forensics.
And do you also research and publish?
Yes, occasionally.
And ma'am, have you done that in the past 9 years?
In the past, yes.
And also, ma'am, have you also testified in court and been deemed an expert in forensic pathology?
I have.
And about how many times?
I believe this is number 70.
And in those 70 times, have they been various courts here in this area?
Yes.
Now, Dr. Mooney, were you so employed by the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office back in June 3rd of 2024?
Yes.
And ma'am, before we talk about the initial autopsy that you did in this matter, please explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what pathology is, what forensic pathology is, and what brings us then here today.
Pathology is the study of disease. So kind of behind the scenes medicine, where we study disease processes. We are trained in diagnosing that with microscopes and with autopsy on individuals. So we are trained in anatomic and clinical pathology, and that's what that is. When we talk about forensic pathology, we're applying that matter to legal proceedings. So we then encompass any injury as well as natural disease in examining a body and using that to obtain a cause and manner of death.
And ma'am, how many causes can there be for death?
Many.
And can you give us some examples of some of the causes?
A cause of death is basically the underlying disease process that causes someone to die. So it's the initial insults or underlying disease process. So it can be hypertensive heart disease, or it can be trauma such as blunt force injuries or sharp force injuries, gunshot wounds, things like that.
And then are there a distinguishing amount of manners of death?
There's 5 manners of death, and manners of death are the classification regarding the circumstances surrounding death. So we issue a death certificate that states the cause of death, but also the manner of death. And the 5 include natural, suicide, accidental, homicide, and in some cases undetermined.
And can you define those for us?
Homicide is death at the hands of another person. Suicide would be death at the hands of yourself with the intention of doing so. Accidental death is, as it sounds, unintentional, but traumatic in nature. Natural is just natural disease process taking its course without any intervening non-natural causes. And undetermined is a category that we use when we do not know the circumstances surrounding death.
So, doctor, is it fair to say that as a forensic pathologist, when you receive a body into the medical bay at the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's office, you are looking to determine what caused this person's death?
Correct.
And that you do external examinations and then internal examinations, and that, for lack of a better term, the body talks to you and tells you what happened to it
Essentially, yes.
with regards to the physicalities and your observations of that.
Yes.
So, doctor, you were employed at the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's office on June 3rd of 2024. Did you have the occasion to become involved in the autopsy of a Julian Wood?
Yes.
And in addition to Julian, but for all your autopsies, ma'am, do you have a protocol that is generated by you, signed also by the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner, Tom Gilson, that incorporates all of your examinations and your findings as to the death of Julian Wood?
Yes, it is a report that I generate following my examination.
And in addition to that, you also have toxicology results that also are you ask for them to be examined, and then you evaluate them as part and parcel of your autopsy report.
Yes.
And in addition to that, you also cause pictures to be taken of the individual, the decedent, that is brought into the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's office.
Yes.
All right. Why do we take photographs, doctor? What is the purpose?
Some of it is to memorialize our findings. That also happens within our report. But with photographs, sometimes it's to document therapy, injuries, if there's any evidence on the body that would be removed after or during examination or prior to. These are photographs that we take. We also take these photographs in order to present them in court should that need to happen.
And doctor, did you do all those things in this case?
Yes.
Did you have a report prepared that is signed by you and signed by Dr. Gilson?
Yes.
Did you have toxicology results that you reviewed, examined, and made part of your report?
Yes.
And did you have photographs taken with regards to the autopsy of Julian Wood?
Yes.
All right.
.103 to 112, as I agreed to?
Yes.
Okay.
These are everything that, just so you know. Dr. Handing you has been previously marked and shown to defense counsel, courts exhibit 100, 101, 102, and then states exhibit 103 to 112.
Let me know when you reviewed them.
I've reviewed them.
Thank you. You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Starting with States Exhibit 100. Can you tell us what that is, ma'am?
This is a document generated by our office. It's called the medical examiner's verdict. It has the assigned case number to the individual for that autopsy or for that examination. And then it goes on to explain some of the demographic information about the decedent and the circumstances that led up to the death. It's generated by our secretarial staff in order for our chief medical examiner to review, as well as the cause and manner of death at the end, so that he is reviewing all of the cases within the office.
All right, and at the very end of this document, there is a cause of death. And who made that determination?
Myself,
All right, and the manner of death.
myself.
And then at the very end is your signature, oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Gilson's signature.
Correct.
And why is his signature there?
He will review all of the medical examiner's verdicts from all of the forensic pathologists in the office and will sign off on those verdicts.
And those become part and parcel of the original file at the medical examiner's office.
Correct.
All right, so moving on to State's Exhibit 101. What is State's Exhibit 101?
This is the report of autopsy for the case on Julian Wood. It's the anatomic diagnosis that I wrote following the examination, which lists the cause and manner of death and the specifics of those injuries.
So, and we're going to talk about those, but again, this is a document now that you yourself signed.
Correct.
Again, indicating the cause and the manner of death. And then you go into gross anatomic descriptions. And what else do we find in there?
The gross anatomic description will goes through all of the external examinations. So air color, eye color, any therapy that was involved in resuscitation attempts. And then it describes all of the injuries that I found on the decedent. Following the external examination, it lists everything internally with regard to any natural disease or injury processes within the body itself.
So, Doctor, we're going to talk about that. We're going to you're going to take that off the screen. We're not going to look. You're going to explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury your examination of when this child first decedent was brought in, the condition they were brought in, and then how then you methodically do your examination.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to use the photographs in conjunction with that?
Whatever you prefer.
It's whatever your pleasure is, Doctor.
We can proceed with the photos.
The photos? Okay. All right. So State Exhibit 103. What are we looking at in State Exhibit 103?
When the decedent is brought into the office, the first thing that we do is take an overall photograph of how we received the decedent. So in a secured transport bag with a number attached to the case. In this case, it's IN 24-839. This is an identifier for that decedent. So that number should be associated with anything we do with this decedent. So this is a photograph of that initial intake.
State Exhibit 104.
Once the seal has been broken for chain of custody on the transport bag, we take another photograph of how we received the decedent. So here, this is just an overall photograph of how he was received. Medical therapy is left in place by the hospital. If it's a medical examiner's case, once a death has been ruled or pronounced deceased, it's kind of all hands off. So they will leave everything in place that they use for resuscitation measures. The hands are bagged in this instance in case there's any evidence that needs to be preserved that will be collected at our office prior to examination.
All right. State Exhibit 105.
After the decedent is taken into our office, one of the first things, depending on the case, will be he goes to or she goes to our trace evidence department. They will take the bags off the hands. They will take any evidence that they might need. And then once that is completed, the autopsy essentially begins at that point. When I do the autopsy, I document all of the therapy that was on the decedent so that there's no way for me to not recognize something that's done by the hospital versus actual injury. So once that has occurred, we remove all of that therapy and we clean the body in order to look at all of the injuries and all of all the therapeutic marks again. After documenting all the therapeutic marks or injuries, I turn then to inflicted injuries, not by the hospital. So the first injury that I note is a stab wound to the left side of the decedent's face. And this is depicted here in the photograph. Depicted here in the photograph. This is a close-up photograph of that wound, just reapproximated. So I will try to reapproximate the edges of the wound to show if there's a sharp edge or a blunt edge, or if there's any characteristics to the weapon that I might be able to see, which here, as you can see on the right side, that margin or edge looks more kind of squared off, and the left side is more pointed. So I can tell it's a single edge instrument that was used to inflict the injury. After taking these photographs, we do look internally to see what is damaged. So with the instance of the stab wound to the cheek, it did go through the mandible, the bone of the jaw on that left side. After it passed through the bone of the jaw, it transected a branch of the carotid artery. So there's the artery that you can feel your pulse. It's quite a large artery. It splits into two portions, and one of those portions was severed. The stab wound continued to go back behind the airway and behind kind of the oral cavity and downward, and nicked the right side of the cervical vertebrae or the neck spinal column. It didn't hurt the spinal cord, but there was a lot of bleeding in the airway and throughout that wound path.
And doctor, therefore, that would cause a lot of bleeding that would come in from the mouth.
Yes, that's massive hemorrhage. It's also causing blood to go into the airway, and so there's a lot of breathing in of blood. So not necessarily ability to get air into the lungs, but just blood into the air, blood into the airways.
Thank you. States Exhibit 108.
This is the second injury and other stab wound that I documented. So he has a stab wound to the upper left side of his back.
And you examine this stab wound.
I did.
A close-up of this stab.
Yes.
States Exhibit 109.
This is just a closer version of that, or closer photograph of that wound. And there's another photograph that's even closer still.
States Exhibit 110.
And this is just another example of me reapproximating that wound with a sharp margin or edge and a more squared off and kind of bruised end on the other side. This injury passes behind the scapula, but into the chest cavity. It goes through the third and fourth rib in the back on the left side, and then it punctures the left lung. So it extends deep enough that it goes through the large artery that's giving blood to the lung. And so there was quite a bit of blood that will then go into the chest cavity. So in addition to inhaling blood and not being able to breathe that way, there's blood that fills up that chest cavity. I always kind of describe it as trying to blow up a balloon underwater. There's just too much tension on that, and it collapses the lung. So there's not a way to breathe.
States Exhibit 111.
This is a photograph of the left lung once I removed it. So this is the wound that goes through the lung itself and into that artery.
And with regards to States Exhibit 111, what is the depth of that incision?
Both of the stab wounds, the one to the cheek and to the back, are both 4 inches deep.
States Exhibit 112.
This is an overall photograph of the lower extremities of the decedent. We also document anything else that looks like injury. So that includes any superficial scratches or bruises. So this is just a photograph of the overall lower extremities where there are kind of scattered bruises, including like a linear or angled, slightly linear contusion or bruise over that right thigh. There's also a defect. No, that's a defect in the right groin. That's from therapy. So, yeah. That's one bruise, yes. There's also one higher up on the leg, too. Yes, correct. And there's just a couple more on the lower extremities, yeah. That is therapy related. So with these types of injuries, I make sure that there's additional efforts to try to get a vascular source in that inguinal region to give fluids, IV fluids. And so there was puncture sites there. And if they can't get access, sometimes they will cut the skin there to try to get access to a vein or artery to give fluids. So that's therapy related. It's also not in the clothing, and it's superficial.
Yeah, that is for purposes of medical intervention.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
is not an additional stab wound.
Correct.
All right. And doctor, I believe those are the extent of our photographs. So let's talk about, so you've done your external examination and you have located the stab wounds, which you have described to us. Then what then do you go on and do with regards to your further examination of this body before making your conclusions?
I look at all of the organs, whether or not they're injured or not. So I look at all of the other chest organs, neck organs, abdominal, pelvic, as well as the brain. And I document any additional findings. And then I generate a report to summarize all of them.
And did you do that here?
I did.
And what were your findings with regards to your internal examination?
Exactly what I mentioned before. So aside from being a healthy young boy, he had injuries to the upper airway and neck, as well as the chest and lung, and bleeding internally from those.
And doctor, did you also examine States Exhibit 102?
Yes.
And what is it, identify States Exhibit 102 for the jury, and what did you do with that?
This is a final toxicology report that's generated for myself following the autopsy. During the course of the autopsy, we take samples of body fluids or tissues and submit them for toxicology testing. It's routine for us to test these in cases and to have a report be generated by our toxicology lab to show if there's any drugs or alcohol within that decedent.
And what were your findings with regards to States Exhibit 102?
There was no drugs or alcohol found. It was negative.
All right. And doctor, other than what you have testified to, is there anything else encompassed in your report that you used or you considered in making your findings with regards to the cause and the manner of death?
No.
All right. And doctor, based on a reasonable degree of medical certainty, have you formed an expert opinion concerning the cause of death of Julian Woods?
Yes.
And what is that cause of death?
Stab wounds of the face and back.
And with regards to the manner of death, based on a reasonable degree of medical certainty, have you determined what the manner of death was?
Yes.
And what is the manner of death?
Homicide.